Welcome back to the Après Business Podcast. Join your host, Rebecca Babicz, founder of Fall Line Digital, as we dive deeper than ever into conversations with the founders, marketers, and innovators shaping the outdoors. Let's jump into today's episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Après Business Podcast. My name is Rebecca Babicz. I'm so excited for today's guest, Josh Sprague. Josh, how's it going? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Josh Sprague, calling in from, currently it just started raining, if you can hear that in the background, which is awesome. Calling in from today, Lomita, Texas is where I'm at, about an hour north of Austin. And it's a beautiful day. Got a bunch of flowers blooming outside. It's raining. Can't complain. Love it.
Love it. So you are a serial entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about the businesses that you own and how you operate within them.
Sure. So I have three businesses. I have Orange Mud, which I started in January of 2012. It's a hydration pack company designed for endurance athletes. So basically a Camelback is what everybody always says. You don't make Camelback, right? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's their brand, but I mean, I make mine, but whatever. But yeah, I appreciate the connection. But I've had that for 14 years, and I started it with the premise of quality and no bounce, and you stick to your body so it doesn't move and makes you enjoy the run and ride more. And then so that was, our tagline there is innovation out of frustration. I started it because I didn't like the rest of the packs on the market. And then 6.5 years ago, I started my other business, 7 Clay, which also started out of frustration or really hatred. I hated the local businesses that I was outsourcing the custom embroidery of my seat cover, one of the products I designed on the Orange Mud side. And their quality was terrible. The service was rude. The prices were stupid. So I started a business specifically just to hurt them and obviously help out my own product. And then now it's actually bigger than Orange Mud, and it's turned into this, beast of embroidery, screen print, laser engraving, brand building business. And then as a result of, building e-commerce brands and B2B, B2C my whole life, I started a second or third business called Anvil Maker, which is basically fractional CMO. It's a marketing business. I basically teach people how to develop a pipeline from start to finish and make sure you look at the whole picture. That basically brings you up to snuff of my gaggle of businesses here.
I love it. So B2B, B2C, agency.
Yeah.
Where is your happy place?
That varies by the day. I love Orange Mud because, building out your own brand is your own special thing. And, I am an active user. I'm an endurance athlete. I've competed in over 500 endurance races in my life. And it's really sweet that I get to use my packs that I designed to do things, which is great. But it's even more sweet to see all of our audience that, when I'm at a trail run or a trail race or mountain bike or even just riding by my house, I run into people just on the trails and I always stop people that's wearing one of my packs or t-shirts or socks and hats and everything else. And I'll ask them like, hey, what do you think of that pack? And they're like, dude, it's the coolest thing ever. I mean, it's just so neat. And you can't have a bad day. You can have a bad day and it can be instantly changed just by some feedback like that. So Orange Mud is a business of passion and it really is phenomenal that I was able to turn something that was a sport and a passion into a business. 7 Clay, I do love building brands, and it's fun building other people's brands. It's also great because it doesn't have much of an inventory. Orange Mud takes a lot of money for inventory, which is its own animal. But I love that people are like, hey, I'll take 100 hats. I'm like, cool, I'll buy 100 hats. We customize them at our shop. We ship them out. Everybody's in love with the product, and we're very happy. We've made such a fun thing, and the inventory's already gone. It's quick. Now, Anvil Maker is fun because I do enjoy building other people's businesses with their money. And that's even more fun because your own money, it's always an experiment and you're always working to make sure you're pinching every penny. And I, of course, do that with other people's money. But there's a different level of excitement when you see a refinement of a process that yields leads, that yields customers, that makes somebody else happy and I don't have to worry about all the other headache of employees, liability, policies, just everything, the all encompassing aspect of business. So yeah, I genuinely believe it depends by the day, but right now I like all three. This time of year, I always like all three. This time of year is good. Like the summers are always good for both of my core businesses. The like coming off Christmas, everything's slow in January and February in both. So there's always like a lingering effect where I'm like, this time of year sucks. That's when cash flow always gets tight. I always have to spend some giant check to pay for inventory, for orange mud, for replenishment from the holiday sales, and to prepare for summer upcoming sales. So yeah, I love and hate all of them. It just depends on the day.
So, from a business model perspective, I'm super curious which there's clear trade-offs, pros and cons to each.
Yeah.
Is there an easy business model out there?
Cool. Man, I tell you what, if I could start, if I didn't have my businesses tomorrow and you were like, all right, Josh, let's go into business together. What should we do? I would be like, let's mow lawns. I think that would be so cool. And I say it dead serious because I'm like, the older I get, the more I appreciate being outside. I think the value of sunshine is something that we don't talk about enough. And just getting outside, making contact with dirt, and just enjoying vitamin D, I believe can change so much in our lives, from everything, social, psychological, just every aspect. And I do think the lawn business is something I would seriously do, because I just can't see how it's hard. It's one that I'm sure most people listening, if I ask you, out of all the people you've hired to mow your lawns over the years, how many of them were you satisfied with? And the answer is probably not very many. Like my guy, which I don't have anymore because I have a 13 and 14-year-old, so I have my own built-in lawn mowers. But up until just a couple of years ago, I couldn't even tell you my lawn guy's phone number. I just know that money came out of my automatic somewhere to pay him every once in a while. I don't even know how it got done. But then at the same time, there were times where I'm like, when's the last time such and such came by? I'm like, I think he hasn't been here for 4 months. Granted it's winter, but still Texas and the grass still grows. But that was just a never ending battle with me with landscaping companies. And it was always like that. My whole life, I've always had that issue if I wasn't mowing my own lawn. And so I think I would give the absolute best customer service to the lawn care business, and go outside and maybe even go mow lawn sometimes just to break it up. And but put in, same thing, put in that, how do we get the leads? How do we contact the customer? How do we make customers happy? How do we maintain and nurture customers long term? I don't see these companies doing that. It's usually, whether it's a big or small company, it's either done half-ass, or it's even a big company, it's usually done the same. So yeah, I think that's what it would be. Or maybe a door greeter at Walmart. I think that might be nice. But yeah, I think lawnmower would be a better one.
You actually even have a fourth business, because right now, like you said, you're at your Airbnb in your
Yep.
cabin. But the other week when we talked, one of the things that stood out to me is I was like, dude, Josh must be like the busiest human ever. He has three businesses. They're all super different. They all operate completely different challenges. You've
Yeah.
got your D2C business that's, super low margin, high investment. Then
Sure.
you've got your embroidery business, and then you have your agency fractional business, which
Right.
you got to turn and burn leads, build out your processes, things like that. Um, and I was like, I just can't even imagine how crazy you are. And yet
Yeah.
here you are at your cabin, enjoying your life, enjoying your day. You said you
Yeah.
played guitar
Play the
today.
guitar, man.
Um, and and I absolutely love that for you. And one of the things that we talked about last week, which I want to ask you more on, is how you were able to replace yourself in the business, let those businesses run without you, and how you kind of are able to do that.
Sure. Well, so the first thing about, I think it was 2 years ago now. It may have been three. Well, it'll be three come, well, August. So 2.5 years ago, we implemented EOS in 7 Clay. And I read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And at the same time,
I have it right here for
there you go.
for
Yeah, perfect.
YouTubers, for YouTube.
Yeah,
This is the book he's talking about.
that's it.
I just
Yep. So
got
I
it
read
right.
that, and while I was reading, I listened to it. I listened to it while I was on. I was running a bunch that summer, and I just listened to audiobooks most of the time when I run. So I listened to that book, and then at the same time, because I often listen to like 5 books at a time, I was listening to Who Not How, which is a fantastic book. The premise is really tells you everything you need to know, but it's who's going to do the job is one of the most important things. And um, it hit me that it was my birthday that summer in July at the office. Everybody wore a MacGyver shirt, and Josh is our MacGyver, and Josh is the tool man, Josh is the solver, Josh is everything. And it was very special that on my birthday, everybody made these custom shirts for me, and my whole team was wearing them. But it actually made me sad because I realized I was way too important. And back then, I used to go to the office every day, and it was something that I knew that I needed to fix things because my day usually started with phone calls. And my first call would usually start at 7 of, hey, we have to solve this, or we have this problem. And a lot of times I'm like, you do know how to do that. Like, you don't need to ask me to do that. But that was there were a lot of those type of questions. So when everybody had those shirts on that day, I went home and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to the office anymore. Which isn't probably the best way to do it, but I stopped. Not kidding, man. I stopped. I just was like, I regrouped. I thought, man, I need to roll out Traction in my business. I went super deep into research, ended up hiring a lady to help me implement it. Because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I didn't want to waste the time on it. And this lady, Gail, she was a phenomenal implementer for me. And so she came in, and we both attacked everything over the course of probably 30 to 45 days. And we looked at we made an org chart. We didn't look at the org chart. We made one because we didn't have one. And the org chart was kind of funny because as you're going through those roles, she's like, well, what ones of these do you do? And I was like, I mean, most of them, or I'm the backup on most of them. And she was like, well, don't you think that that's a problem? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, since you put it like that, probably. But some of it was stupid. Like, I had a full-time graphic designer that works for me for 7Clay, who also was a web designer in part of her career in her life. And but yet web design was a giant component that I did. And even with mock-ups and whatnot for 7Clay, just because I'm type A and I wanted to make sure that they were done in my viewpoint, I was often creating mock-ups, but yet I had a full-time designer and 2 salespeople that also could design. So I didn't need to be doing that. And so we just took all these pieces and we assigned, all right, who is my production manager at the shop? Who is the purchasing manager? Who is the each department manager? And then what are the roles? Or what should the role definition be? And then let's make sure we train these people on it. And then how do we cross train people? And once we did this, I mean, we rolled out aggressively a lot of SOPs, and which would be a lot easier now with AI. Just 2.5, 3 years ago, it wasn't as efficient, but now we do love it because now I'll throw one of my SOPs in there. I'm like, hey, I need to change it to X, Y, and Z. And Claude's like, here you go. It's instant. It's so cool. And make a few tweaks. But we ended up defining all of our SOPs, training everybody on it, got everybody on board, explaining the goal. Like, the goal is to assign more responsibility to individual people, take me out of the equation. Because ultimately everybody was like, yeah, we don't want you to make decisions. Like, we would rather make the decisions. I'm like, well, great. I should have said that a long time ago. But it's something that over the course of the next 4 months or so of rolling that out, probably 6 months, we spent a lot of time. The execution of the initial plan wasn't that hard, but then we concurrently had a continuous improvement program where we assigned continuous improvement projects throughout the whole. All of my managers had a responsibility to work on the ideas that we collectively came up with, that needed to be improved in each area of the business. And a lot of that came down to, we define it, we clarify the SOP, we work through it with everybody, we collectively ensure everything's going to be done to a level that is the most efficient. And then we train, execute, roll out, and then continually reinforce. And those things, I'm not going to say it's perfect. It never is, but it made a huge difference. And the reason why it made a huge difference is, I mean, it took me out of the equation, but it gave everybody individual clarity. Before, it was like, well, when there's a problem, we should call Josh or Jen or Sierra or Charlie or Beth. It was like, no, if there's a problem with X, then you call Sierra. It's that simple. Like, don't involve anybody else. If somebody else needs to be involved, Sierra will call me if there's some reason for that. And it was just those simple clarities that made me realize, man, that's all we need to do. And everybody can work more efficiently. And I'd been working on SOPs over the years for some of my remote workers that are overseas or even domestic, that I just wanted to have a consistent process, because everybody has an interpretation of how to do something. But if you have your vision with how it needs to go, you need to document that. So, say with Orange Mud, my Amazon ad manager, he's remote, but I have a defined set of principles that we need to follow and metrics that he needs to follow. Otherwise, he just can spin blindly, and and there's no rule to control things. And then, of course, now the tying everything together. What is even more cool now, in one of the ways that I do synchronize this parallel universe of these businesses, is that, like this week, for example, I've had this mess with Google. Some hacker hacked my account, blew $24,000. I haven't been able to get into it for 6 weeks. It's awesome. And Google sucks. I hate them, but whatever. But what I have been doing is I've had to build out a whole new ecosystem. And Google is more complicated than Google Ads. Google is Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Merchant Center, Google Search Console, Google Business Profile, and then linking even all the MCC or the MCC account and the tags. And there's just a giant mess, which is the ecosystem of Google. And so this week, I am pretty organized. But even me, I'm sitting there like, dang it, which number is it I'm working with, as I'm going through all these freaking cases with the tech people at Google trying to solve it? So I was like, you know what? I need to make an account profile for for 7Clay or for Orange Mud first. And then I'm going to do this across everything else. And so I was able to, and it sounds simple, but I guarantee you, most people do not have all their ad profiles right now, especially somebody in B2C. B2C is a monster. It is an absolute monster between Facebook, Google, Amazon, and then all the tools that go to make it work. So I went in through Claude, and in combination of my work and Claude, I created this basically advertiser document. And I now have all of my accounts, one document for everything, all businesses, plus the ones I manage that aren't mine, for every single account. And it's all secure, of course, although it's just accounts, it's not passwords and stuff, but it's something that now, anytime I'm on a call with the tech team, or even if I need to drive Claude to do work for me, which I use the crap out of Claude Cowork, it is the single greatest tool I have ever found. And it has allowed me to be an analytic machine, but an organized machine. And so now I have Claude trained to reference always, with no exception, these account numbers and these account numbers only. Especially me managing multiple things, it gets confused because it jumps in there and it's finding different accounts. But now I have everything programmed. When you work in Orange Mud, these are the only things. These are your source of truth. This is what you do. This is your job. This is your objective. And this is what I need you to review and make sure that I'm up to speed if there's any problems. And so with all these things, it kind of goes back to the systems, right? Now I haven't put it as an SOP for myself, but I probably will, that I have this advertiser document that's my core basis for organization. So yeah, I just think that by getting the right people in the right jobs, and then anytime I have once a month, I have a calendar item that is repeating that says, are you doing today what you should be? Like, is there anything that you shouldn't be doing, essentially? And I sit there and I think, like, all right, what did I spend the most of my week doing this week? And do I need to be doing it? And like a week or a month ago, when it went off, I still approved all the quotes for 7Clay. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I've already wrote all the metrics and all the cross checks. My system is pretty automated anyway. And so I asked my executive assistant, which it's not even fair to call her that because she basically runs like all of our sales operations. I was like, hey, Eileen, can you just take over and just do this, like manage it for me? You approve everything. And I mean, I figure worst case, we're going to lose a few $100 here and there. Maybe because I obviously am the guy that knows how to make everything in my shop. And so there's things that I'll know that maybe she won't yet, but she's done a phenomenal job. And now I look back and I'm like, that was really stupid. I should have done that, like, I don't know, months ago. but now instantly I checked out, and she hits me up, of course, when there's things that are outside of maybe her knowledge base. But yeah, it's who, not how, and systematize everything. And once you do that, it frees up an incredible amount of time. And yeah, I think more people need to focus on that.
Oh my gosh. So many follow-up questions on that. But I want to go back to when you first implemented EOS and you hired somebody to run through your processes and your SOPs. Was there a point where you needed to relinquish control and almost like let the system fail and let people fail to show you that either they could do it or that there was a system breakdown? Or how did you go from fully being in the business to your
Yeah.
team having MacGyver shirts
Yep.
to 30, 45 days getting out of the weeds? Was there something where you were like, at a certain point, people either need to,
Should or get
sink,
off the pot.
yes, shit or get out of the pot, sink or swim, right? Like,
Right.
did you just kind of come to a point
Yeah,
or?
I did. Now, I will say that my shop, we basically, inside my company, all the people that I have in a management position, they all fortunately run the business as if it's their own. So it wasn't actually as hard as I thought it would have been. Now, I did create some friction. One of the people in my business didn't like that I didn't give them the opportunity to be the big boss, and you know it's still a point of friction, but ultimately you can't make everybody happy, and I did what I could. I'm like, man, you're still managing all this aspect of stuff. We just have this person is overseeing everything. So there were definitely some friction points, but ultimately people wanted it. I couldn't believe it. I should back up and say that in my previous career in manufacturing, I mean, my last company, I was there 10 years, and I built it from a small company to a $20 million business. And I can directly say that I was extremely responsible for that growth in terms of, I was the one bringing in most of the revenue, but I also had to build systems to support it. And that was in precision manufacturing, medical devices, and DoD defense work. So everything was highly regulated, and we had a lot of, and we could kill people, right? If we made things wrong, it could hurt people really bad. And so there were processes that had to be put together and enforced and trained and disciplined. We didn't have EOS at the time, but I bet I wrote 500 SOPs over the years, and work instructions and IQ, OQ, PQ stuff. And, and it's just insanity amount of work I put into systems. But I will say, like probably most people that come from big enterprise or bigger enterprise, for me, a lot of times it's just pocus, right? It's just, okay, that's my job description, but it doesn't cover the 12,000 things I do in a day. We didn't really write things like that this time. I think reading the book, it helped to shape the direction of these things. And I mean, we of course have the asterisks, like you do it, here's your job, and then do X, Y, and Z, everything else that comes up. And so you can't cover everything, but we wanted to cover core mission critical processes. And that was the difference, I think, and why we had such an easy adaptation to it. Like our heat presses is a good example. We have or lasers even, but on the heat presses, they run somewhere around 300 to 400 degrees, and you're heat pressing art onto shirts or hats or whatever. And some of our heat presses are automatic, like you just slide them over, comes down, and it will crush your hand. Like it's going to hurt it. It's going to break it. And not only that, you're going to get first degree burns. Well, I was allowing things to be sloppy, and people were talking on their phones while they were doing that. And that was like one of the first SOPs that I addressed. And I, despite asking and nudging numerous times to one of my employees is a little sensitive to criticism, I was like, okay, we're going to put an SOP in place. If you don't do this, it's, you hate to ever go like, I'm going to write you up, but I made it very clear that this is the SOP for this process. And we wrote it to ensure ultimate customer satisfaction, proper adherence to the t-shirt, and also to maintain safety. And I told everybody, I'm like, there's no exception here. If you're on your phone, you're fired. It's that simple. It's something you can't do because I don't want you to be hurt. And it, as simple as that sounds, and it may be as blunt as it sounds, I think it's sometimes easier if you write it down versus just, hey, stop talking on your phone while you're doing while you're heat pressing shirts. And maybe some people will see that as micromanaging, but it's really not. I don't want anybody to be hurt making t-shirts. If you're saving a baby from a fire, okay, that's a high risk situation. There's no reason to make a t-shirt press an unsafe situation. So it's something that, again, I'm not saying it works perfectly. We actually had to have a conversation yesterday with the person again, but we have that SOP to fall back on. Like, look, here's the SOP. It's critical you're following this because we don't want you to be hurt. We don't want anybody else to be hurt. We don't want you to do this, which allow other people to do it because they're going to see you get away with it. Like we just can't have it. And so I think there was so many pieces that clarified things, and it allowed even the one or two people that we have in our company that maybe we're always on the fringe of doing things incorrectly. It allowed us to enforce doing it right first, to where the people that were always trying to make things successful were like, okay, well, now you're at least finally standing up for us. You're fixing the bad apple. Hopefully it's going to work through the rest of the organization. So yeah, I think we were lucky in that sense that we had everybody that wanted success. We don't have people that don't want our business to succeed. A lot of big companies, you'll have that, right? You'll have the negative naysayers in there that just want to hurt you, it seems, work against the company. I'm like, you work here to get paid, but yet you seem like you're always hating the company. We don't have that. Our company, we all get along, most of the time. And so, yeah, I think it was a fairly easy adoption as a result.
I love that. And so let's switch gears a little bit to Orange Mud, because is that just a one-man team, just you AI agents running that thing right now?
No, we have I think there's roughly 10 of us that run it. And because I have specialists, social media, organic, email, Facebook ads, Google ads, I manage, Amazon ads, web developer. I have a full-time web developer that actually crosses between all my companies, but CRM implementer. We have the B2B, we have B2C side, so we have two different CRM systems. So yeah, I think there's roughly 10 of us on that side. And then of course, shipping, my wife and my sister both are the shipping agents for both sides of both businesses that ship products. And they do a lot of other stuff too, but yeah, it's its own monster, for sure. And it takes, I think in the beginning, it was easier to be like a 2-person company, which was just my wife and I in the beginning. But anymore, and even like it's bigger than even just the employees or contractors. It's the bookkeeping team, the CPA team, the tax team. It's just compliance it's gotten crazy. B2C is in 14 years has had a dramatic increase in costs in every level. And then even just regulation, and it varies by the day. I mean, still, tariffs are a wild card. Like we've been getting, over the past month, FedEx is finally getting their crap together from the tariffs last year. And admittedly, it kind of came out of nowhere, and then, they were trying to catch up, whatever. But lately, we've just been getting, like I wake up usually in the morning to tariff bills coming into my phone to text. They don't even email them, which is beyond me. They text them to me, which is awesome to retriangulate it to the invoices. But, when we have major carrier movement, that's a different animal. These are a lot of the custom cap, maybe we're buying a woven patch or silicone, which come from overseas. There's things we can't do in-house or here domestically, but or custom 100% made from scratch apparel, which we produce in Costa Rica. We get all these type of things, which are its own duty nightmare. So you have like just the tariff issues and sorting through what that even is, complying with global duties and global transport is insanity. And then, sales tax, like we collect city taxes in many states, state, county, and city taxes. It just depends on whatever nexus we have in a given state and which rules we have to comply with. And there's, you have to have fancy software for that and fancy bookkeeping teams and CPAs that can make sure the bookkeeping teams are doing it right. And then you still have to figure out, where the fraud is, which I am using Claude more and more for discovering fraud, which we always are battling fraud. There's always some new leak somewhere. It's insane. But so anyway, it's a big team between apps, contractors, and employees.
Okay, so you just threw out so much. Like you're like, hey, welcome to my world. We've got fires every single day. We've got tariffs, we've got fraud, we've got increased cost of supplies, we've got shipping, we've got, Google ads that are somebody hacked their account. Do you, what's your personal process for managing chaos and priorities?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess whichever fire's burning the hottest. I mean, ultimately,
because the fires are inevitable, right? You're a business owner, you're basically a firefighter.
And it's something, and I don't think most people appreciate the chaos in business sometimes. And it's things out of your control. I mean, again, in the past year, 6 weeks ago, I had my Google ad account not only hacked, they hacked it, removed me from it, spent $24,000 and opened up a line of credit. That's all I know. I've actually paid the hackers spending because they spent 24 grand. It was not in my account. Who knows what it was, but I've actually paid his bills or hers or theirs. It could be a whole freaking team probably is how this stuff worked. And only because I don't want to cancel my 2 credit cards, which are associated with it, because it's too much work to change all my credit cards. So, this is a $24,000 fraud. And again, potentially larger because all I could get from billing is that they opened up a line of credit on my account after I froze the main and the backup credit card on the account. So that one's fun. Last year I had over $100,000 that I discovered that I kept trying to figure out why Seven Clay was doing so poorly and Orange Mud was doing so great, but both were doing an inverse level of the math it just didn't math up. I just couldn't figure it out. And all of a sudden I was looking one day and I was like, dang, I told my bookkeeper, I'm like, you realize Seven Clay's been paying Orange Mud's Chase Visa bill for the past 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was. And that was $100,000 that was going the wrong direction. And my bookkeeper's like, oh, I thought you were doing that for cash flow. I'm like, you could see me transferring money from one business back to the other. I'm like, no, I couldn't figure it out, but I was so freaking busy. I just thought, dang, I'm not doing something right, which, that's shame on me. So I've tightened that piece up. I had 24,000, I think it was 24,000. It's funny how I always seem to have these $20,000 to $25,000 hacks, but Facebook ad hack. It was some bad guy that was doing fbook.me as opposed to fcbk.me on my Amex statement and had been slowly just spending a little bit each month. I'm talking some months $4. And Facebook will do that. They'll do these little micro billing. And then in February last year, he spent 22,000. And I knew it wasn't me because I don't spend that much in February. It's a crappy month. I mean, you're wasting money. And so when I saw my Amex bill, I'm like, that's not right. Something's off. And I saw it, and then I searched. It took me a while to figure it out. And then I searched for that code, and once I saw, I'm like, oh man, whoever this bad guy is, he just basically duplicated the FC book names. Facebook doesn't put their actual name, full Facebook on your credit card statements, and had been just test, and went huge. And he probably advertised, who knows, casino gambling site or something. But same thing, I was able to get the money back, but that is, and there's numerous other ones like this. And unfortunately, that's just where there's a lot of bad apples out there, and you're constantly chasing that. But yeah, aside from that, I do have a lot of tools that I use to measure things. And, I have basic automated reports, especially with AI now. I have a lot of my reports. I don't depend on most people for reports now. I have them automated, which is great anyway, because ultimately reports are a pain in the butt for most people to make. I have an AI program to run me reports on various different cadences to give me an analysis of what's going on. And what's neat is that I don't have to trust anybody's data either. They can fight back, which is great. Like my Amazon guy, I busted his chops the other day and he pushed back on me, which is great. And I like that. But Claude, on the parameters that I wrote, flagged numerous different things, and he pushed back or defended as to the why. And that's perfect. But I push really hard on proper analytics and measurement that are automated within the business and in all businesses. And that really does make your life easy. If you can measure it, it's a lot easier to control it and maintain the sanity. And then I did switch software systems last year on the fraud side for Orange Mud that should tighten that up. And so now I even have AI that recognizes patterns that are off in my software. So hopefully we're closing the gap on these, but obviously with AI, it's actually pretty scary. The amount of fraud that'll probably happen in the future is probably next level. But hey, for now, I at least am doing okay. So yeah, chaos.
So the biggest fire you put out first, and then you moved down from there.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I mean, so I have a clipboard that I print off every Monday or Sunday night, and it has all my tasks for the week of immediate goals that I have to do, and then long-term goals that I hope to pick off each week. And that is my driving source. I mean, I a lot of times I wake up in the morning and I like to watch the sunrise. And I'm an early guy. I'll get up and go do push-ups on my patio, watch the sun, drink my coffee, and I'll sit there just with a pen and paper and I'll make notes. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do today? Or what do I need to do this week? And then, I'll think of things that I need to work on long-term, and I'll put them in there too. And sometimes I pull them off and I put them in a long-term note list, which is basically a storage in Evernote that I'll probably never get to. But if I ever get totally caught up, that's I guess my place I go to. But my clipboard, it is my happy place each week, because as I complete tasks, I cross them off, and that ensures that each day I look at it, frequently to make sure that, okay, this task needs to be done. Let's do that. Let's start the day with a task. So I feel like I accomplished something, right? It's like working out for the day. You feel happy if you get an exercise in, or just like a coffee, I guess, maybe in the same parallel. So yeah, I believe that in organization of tasks that is in front of your face and hard to ignore, I almost always today was a rare time. I didn't bring my clipboard with me, but I normally, even if I'm going out for 4 hours or something, I'll take it with me just in case I'm in the car and I'm like, all right, which one of these can I cross off the list today? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to call Larry. It's sometimes simple things. And sometimes it's simple things like call your dad. It's usually sometimes really simple stuff. But again, I'll call my dad. I'm like, yeah, that make old grandpa happy. I better call him up. And I'll cross it off the list. And again, I feel good. Like, all right, in a state of constant motion, you have to put in those things sometimes in your calendar of, it could be just a personal action, but that will help. That process will help, and it at least has helped me to organize myself rather than creating this big note list in Evernote or Notion or whatever that ultimately is overwhelming. And I personally found I just felt like I wasn't ever getting any of it done. And I know a lot of people I talk to, they've done similar things where, those digital lists just become digital lists and it just gets sloppy, where mine isn't like that. Mine's refined every week. So yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes.